Very good evening to one and all. We have been gathered here for the debate competition that is being conducted by the Synapse Society. The debate competition is supposed to be the round two of the group discussion that was held by Synapse on 10th of August. The best four speakers of that group discussion have been invited here to participate in the debate competition. Samriddhi, you can proceed to slide number two. Yeah. So the topic for today's debate event is capital punishment is the death penalty an effective deterrent to crime, or should it be abolished in favor of alternative forms of punishment such as rehabilitation? To explain the topic in short to all the participants and to the judges and to audience as well, uh, the participants are supposed to basically explain, is rehabilitation more efficient or is direct punishment more efficient? That's what the topic is. They have to debate in multiple rounds as the format has already been given. Samriddhi, the next slide. Okay. So the participants for today's debate event, the team one, who will be speaking in favor of the motion, that is, they will be speaking how rehabilitation is more effective. Team 1 consists of Ishant Patel and Harshvardhan Rai, and Team 2 will be speaking against the motion. They will be speaking how direct punishment is more effective. Okay, so Team 2 consists of Tanishq Ojha and Soham Mandal. These four participants have been selected from the group discussion that was held on 10th of August by Synapse. Samriddhi, the next slide. The judges for today's debate event are Vignesh Mishra, who is the current General Secretary of Synapse Society, and the second is Asmita Dwivedi, who was the winner of first runner-up of the elocution extempore competition that was conducted by Synapse Society on 27th of July 2023. So basically, Synapse promotes participation from all the students of this degree, and those who win that particular event will be given an opportunity to judge another event which will be conducted by the society in the future. That's what we focus on. So the winners of the elocution and extempore competition will be given an opportunity to judge the other events that will be conducted by Synapse. And we have invited Asmita today. The other two winners, who were Vivek Agarwal and Mohan Krishna sir, will be invited in the other future activities. Samriddhi, the next slide. Okay. So to explain, to give a brief overview of the rounds, we'll be proceeding ahead with the debate, no doubt, but I'll just explain the rounds to the judges and to the audience as well. We have round one, which is an opening statement round where one participant from each team will be presenting their opening statement, a brief overview of their topic. Round two is the rebuttal statement round where basically the other participant from the same team will be opposing the opening statement of the other team. Team one will be opposing the opening statement of team two and vice versa. The round three is cross examination round where open debate will be carried out between both the teams where both the participants can speak. In round three, participants are supposed to basically ask questions to each other and kind of openly debate. Round four is basically the closing statement round where both the participants from both the teams will be providing a concluding statement, a closing statement. And round five is the question and answer round where the judges, the hosts, and the audience will be asking a few questions to both the teams. They will have to provide the necessary answers. So I have explained the format. I have given an introduction of the participants and the judges. We can move ahead with the round one. As you can see in the slide, the opening statement round. I invite Ishant Patel from Team 1 to present their opening statement.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Ishant.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. Today, I stand before you to address a very critical issue that has captured the attention of societies worldwide: the abolition of death penalty in favor of alternative form of punishment, specifically rehabilitation. Our justice system has also always been reflection of our values, ethics, aspiration as a society. So, therefore, it is necessary that we should look closer look at a death penalty and explore more humane and effective way to address crime and its root causes. Death penalty, despite its historical use, raises a very serious moral and ethical question. It is irreversible, and the risk of executing an innocent person is a reality that we cannot ignore. Our commitment to justice and human rights demands that we avoid any possibility of taking a life in error. So, abolishing a death penalty is a significant step toward upholding fundamental right to life and preserving human dignity. There is a reason why 80% of criminologists, according to our research, does not believe that death penalty is an effective way to reduce crime. And it is evident that around over worldwide, around 140 countries have abolished death penalty. So, so overall, I will look to say that death penalty is not a very effective measure. Rehabilitation is an effective, uh, you can say, alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishant. From Team 2, I would invite Soham Mandal to present their opening statement.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you're audible and you're visible.
Okay. I thank Synapse Society for giving me the opportunity to speak against abolition of capital punishment. The last resort in the hands of justice, the capital punishment cannot be abolished. Capital punishment is state-sanctioned process of killing a person for a crime. Human rights activists are constantly stating the need of abolishing capital punishment, but they need to understand we cannot risk potential victims for the life of a proven criminal. Often the national security of states is at stake while dealing with such criminals. At this time, capital punishment is the most preferable option as it discourages others from committing similar crimes. As per Wikipedia, 112 countries have completely abolished the capital punishment, but they are mostly European countries whose populations and crime rates are too low. But the larger countries, comprising about 60% of the world's population, always have to worry about the national security. This obviously includes the United States. Also, since there are poorer countries, crime rate is high. Their population is also very large. For example, Norway, which abolished capital punishment in 2014, had a murder rate of 0.53 per 1 lakh people in the year 2018. This means that there were only 25 confirmed murders in Norway. Now compare it to India with a murder rate of 2.1 per 1 lakh people in 2021. There were over 29,000 murders. 25 people can be kept under check, 29,000 cannot. So punishments need to be severe to discourage people from committing such crimes. Heinous crime is one another reason why capital punishment should not be abolished. Many people argue that rapists should be given life imprisonment. Such people do not realize that it would only encourage more people to commit such crimes. Even the Supreme Court of India held the capital punishment as a device to be used in the rarest of the rare cases. It is not that the judiciary can award a capital punishment wherever they like. The courts need to produce proper reason for awarding capital punishment. Often, human rights activists said that the capital punishment is a way of the government to get rid of political opponents. While this may be true in authoritarian countries, it is not at all true in democracies like India. Media outlets will ensure that the government falls if it tries to take any such action. In all, it can only be said that the capital punishment is a very important tool for the state and the judiciary to maintain order. Capital punishment acts as a deterrence, the presence of which often prevents people from committing heinous crimes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Soham. That was a very statistical and overviewed, opening statement from both the teams. We'll move ahead with round two, which is the rebuttal statement round, where both the teams are supposed to oppose the opening statement of the other team. So, from team one, I would invite Harshvardhan Rai to present the rebuttal statement.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. To start off, I'll make myself clear that the speech of my debate is not restricted only to capital punishment, but also covers direct punishment as a genre. So to start off, I'll just explain the theory of punishment in short, so that the judges as well as the contestants can know why such provisions of punishment have been put in place and why they need to be changed. According to the theory of punishment, there are three reasons why a given punishment, according to the law, is prescribed. Number one being deterrence, that is so as to demotivate people from committing the crime. Second is retribution, so as to give valid justice to the victim. And third is incapacitation, to incapacitate the criminal. Standardizing these theory to India, we see that in last year, and I'm quoting NCRB 2021 report, crime against women has increased by 15.3%, crime against children has increased by 16.2%, crime of public tranquility has increased by 66%, crime of against Crime of human trafficking has increased by 30%, and of murder has increased by almost 0.5%. These are all the crimes in which a death penalty can be given in India. So, for India, the deterrence theory is not valid because despite having the death penalty, along with other strict direct punishment, the crime rates have been increasing in the past decade, and so has been the case in other major countries, including Europe too. Now, coming to my second point, retribution. In India, we believe in the theory that an eye for an eye will make whole world blind. So, providing direct punishment as a way of retribution cannot be justified in this great country. Coming to the point of incapacitation, that is to incapacitate the criminal from committing the crime in future. And as my learned opposing counsel said, that we cannot risk the victim by not giving the death penalty or the direct punishment. I'd like to quote data from NCRB 2021 only. And this is the data of repeat offenders. That is those offenders who get bail or who serve their sentence, come out, and then again commit certain crime. The rate of repeat offenders vary from 0% to 29% in states and from 0% to 27% in union territories. That is, there's a major portion of these criminals who have completed their sentence, served their sentence, faced the direct punishment, and had no reforms and had no change. Quoting Mr. Vivian Stern from his book, I'll say that there's a logical contradiction at heart of the idea of imprisonment, which is that you are taking people away from the society, away from law-abiding world, away from all the influence of people who keep the norms and put them in place, and you put them with people who have broken these laws, who have willingly violated all these norms and conditions, and then you expect that these people will come out reformed. I think the evidence that I have provided you, the data of NCRB that I have provided you, is good enough to prove that all these situations, the direct punishment, the prison system in our country, the judicial system put in place in most of the world is not promoting a lawful society but a lawless society in general. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Harsh. I'll move ahead to Team 2 and I'll invite Tanishq Ojha from Team 2 to present their rebuttal statement.
I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible, Tanishq.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be now addressing the points raised by my esteemed opponent in the previous round. First, recidivism rates. Rehabilitation programs often struggle to achieve lasting behavioral changes in offenders, resulting in high rates of recidivism, that is, the tendency of the criminal to reoffend. This indicates that many individuals who undergo rehabilitation end up reverting to criminal behavior, suggesting that rehabilitation might not be as effective in preventing repeated offenses. Second, lack of accountability. Rehabilitation can sometimes undermine a sense of personal responsibility and accountability for one's actions. If offenders are primarily treated as victims of circumstances, they might not fully internalize the consequence of their action, potentially leading to lack of motivation to change. Third, misallocation of resources. Implementing comprehensive rehabilitation programs can be costly in terms of both financial resources and manpower. These resources could be better utilized to address systemic issues that contribute to crime in first place, such as poverty, lack of education, and unemployment. Fourth, limited effectiveness for certain crimes. Rehabilitation efforts might be less effective for certain crimes, particularly violent offenses or crimes driven by deeply ingrained psychological factors. Punishment might have a stronger deterrent effect for such offenses. Fifth, public perception of leniency. An emphasis on rehabilitation might lead the public to perceive the justice system as lenient, potentially eroding public trust. This could create a sense that offenders are not being held sufficiently accountable for their actions. Sixth, risk to the society. It's important to carefully assess the risk to the society when deciding whether an individual is ready to be reintegrated. Striking a balance between rehabilitation and public safety is essential to maintain public trust in justice system, and ensure that the potential risks associated with releasing offenders are adequately addressed. Seventh, impact on victims. While rehabilitation efforts aim to reform offenders and reduce recidivism, it's also important to ensure that victims' rights, needs, and emotional well being remain central to the justice process. Failing to address these concerns could lead to further distress for victims and a perception of an imbalanced justice system. As we navigate the intricate landscape of justice and rehabilitation, let us remember that the pursuit of a more just society requires a delicate balance between the principle of accountability and transformation. Let's carry with us the realization that the path forward isn't solely defined by punishment or rehabilitation, but by a collective commitment to crafting a system that truly serves both individuals within it and the society it seeks to protect. To summarize my arguments, I'd like to leave you with this thought provoking quote: justice without force is powerless, force without justice is tyrannical. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tanishq. That ends our round two, which was the rebuttal statement round. Now comes round three, which is the cross examination round or the open debate round. So, to initiate the round, I invite any participant, both the participants of both the teams can speak in this round. There will be no time limit. I invite only a single participant to ask a question from team one to team two. Okay, team one will be asking a question to team two. Team two will be answering the question. Then team one will be opposing the statements stated by team two, and so on. The debate will be continued so on in round three. That's how we'll be working in this round. So to ask the question, I invite any participant from team one. If Harsh and Ishan, any one of you can come ahead and ask the question. Yes, Harsh, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just start off. I have noted down a few points made by my learned opposing counsel, and one of the point that I like to start off this debate with is, dear opponent said that there is a waste of resource in place with rehabilitation. He would much rather prefer to give a death sentence than to try and make him a better person who is compatible to society. How does giving a death sentence better than spending out resources? How is it sending someone to electrocution is better than spending some money on his mental health?
Not, may I speak?
Yeah, yeah. So please go ahead.
Not all criminals are mentally ill. Also, if you can give resources to a criminal, it is better that you give resources to a needy person who has not done any crime. It is important that everyone is respected, but criminals cannot be respected because they have done a serious crime.
Major,
Also,
major.
uh, wait a sec. Also, adding to my teammates' point, uh, when you say spending on our mental health, spending on a victim's accused mental health, it's not necessary that they are suffering from a mental state, or while committing crime they are suffering from a mental state. And also the resources we are spending on them, the rehabilitation programs that are majorly part of European culture or the Western culture, they spend around 423 euros per day on an individual. That is around 42,000 rupees. That is way more than what an average a citizen of India earns in a month, or maybe in 6 months. So our our discussion should be with respect to India, and not the European countries which have been already developed in this sense.
Okay, I totally agree that our discussion should be restricted to India. But before I put my second point, I'd like to add one thing, and I'd like the hosts to make this point and judges to consider this. That during the opening statement, the opposing counsel gave us a data from Wikipedia, which is a non-reliable source. We can agree upon that. Second, Mr. Tanish added right now that European countries are spending 423 euros per day. I'd request that if any such data is provided going ahead, they should also name the source so that we can justify that. Now, coming back to the debate, you are saying that it would be much better to spend this money on the poor and the needy than to spend it on criminals. Uh, I think we all can agree that more often than not, crime is a result of poverty and deprivation. You are saying that those who are victim of poverty and deprivation should not get these resources, but the future ones should. Those who could become victim of poverty should get those resources, but those who have already faced it should not get that resource. That's what you're saying, right? Making your point a little bit harder to digest for me. Also, I'd like to add here that Tanish said that during in case of violent offenses, rehabilitation does not work to a good effect. I just gave an example that direct punishment and death penalty too have not been able to deter people from committing the crime, and also have not decreased the case of repeat offender. This number has been on the increase as per the NCRB, and still making this point that the rehabilitation is less effective, whereas the death row or the direct punishment are more effective. This doesn't make sense, because as per my data, and council did mention Norway, said that there is very few cases of violent offences, whereas in India the number is much large. I'd also like to quote Norway. In the 1990s, this repeat offender cases were at almost world highest level of 70% in Norway. That means those criminals who have served their sentences came out of prison, and 70% of those committed the crimes again. In 1990s, Norway took initiative to readjust its judicial system and rethink all these policies. And I'd like to quote the numbers in of 1995, according to the Norway government only, that 60% of sentences were reduced to 3 months, 90% of sentences was reduced to 1 year, and the recidivism rate, that is the rate of repeat offense, reduced from 70% to 25% in just 5 years of these changes. In just 5 years. So Europe is not a world guru or something who just started off with rehabilitation and all. They conducted a few studies. They thought this could work. They applied it to their society, and it gave them good results. What is restricting us from applying those results too? I know that the cases we have, the numbers we have, is much too large to manage, but we have to start at some point of time. I'm just going to quote a very old data as of now. It's of 2019. I don't know if the judges would consider it relevant or not. This is also NCRB data. This is also talking about India only. 121 people were given death sentence in 2019. But when they appealed to the higher courts, this number reduced to 68. More than 50% of almost 50% of these sentences were turned from death to life imprisonment. That even our judicial system is not very sure when or how to give the death sentences. So would it not be better to create a defined structure of rehabilitation, see if it works or not, and then go ahead with death penalty as maybe the final straw in the stack, and not starting off with death sentences leading to 121 death row in a year. And I'm just going to update this data too. In 2022, the death sentences given by lower court were 488, and that too is NCRB data, which can be validated. And thank you. I like my opponents to clarify these points.
Hello.
Yeah, Ishant, you're from team one, right?
Yeah, I'm from team one.
Okay, so let the team two contradict the points stated by Harsh, and then you can again, we'll proceed again to the team one.
Yeah.
Anyone from team
So
two?
as my
Yeah, thanks.
yeah. So as my opponent gave us some data, I'll just clear my previous data of 423 years one. Uh, this is a data from National Institute of Health, that is a prestige organization of Europe, which also is a part of WHO while collecting data and doing service. And regarding the spending of funds, I clearly stated that we should spend funds rather than spending funds on rehabilitation centers. We should spend funds on uh, generating employment and bettering our education, which are the primary or the systemic errors why crimes occur in the first place. Also, when you use data of Norway and Western Europe countries, we should also remember that these are very developed countries who have worked on their education, employment schemes, while working on crimes as well. Their average individual earns much more than what our average citizen earns, or what a group of citizens earns in India. Their primary life sources does not cannot be ever dependent on crime if they also have equal job opportunities and and a good education to go with it. And making the my last point where uh, the you suggested that death penalty, lower courts gave more death penalties. I completely agree with that. But this is the this is the error of judicial system and not the penalty itself. The penalty while in heinous crimes like rapes or terrorist attacks, where the individual can potentially ruin the society after coming back in rehabilitation, as rehabilitation is a much more newer thing. After 2014, there were European countries who actually took rehabilitation as their primary uh, sentencing in their courts or in the judicial system. I'll end up with that. Uh,
Ishant, if you'd like to, I would like to follow Ishant if it's okay to host.
Yeah, Ishant, you were saying something in the previous turn. Okay, I guess he's inaudible. Okay, Ishant,
Yeah,
you are here. Yeah,
yeah,
Ishant,
hello.
you are saying something.
Yeah. I would like to add in the favor of rehabilitation by presenting some data, a recent study by Professor Michael Redlet and Tracy Lecoq of University of Colorado found that 80% of the nation's leading criminologists do not believe that death penalty is an effective deterrent to crime. And each year from the and also taken data taken from the FBI's crime report. Actually, when uh, research was conducted, where the in states where there were capital punishment and the states where there were no capital punishment, and it was concluded by research that capital punishment has no any effect on the amount of crime being committed. And also, I will like to counter one of the opposing member, Soham, which brought one point that the capital punishment could be effective in uh, crimes such as rape. I highly disagree with that. Actually, I believe that if we emphasize capital punishment in crimes such as rape, there is situation may actually likely to get worse as we when we think from the point of view of the criminal. uh, Actually, in most of the rape cases, they actually do not kill the victim. But if we implement the capital punishment of that, then the criminal is more likely to kill the victim. So this will actually counter our which we trying to reduce the rape cases, but in actuality it will increase the murder as well, murder of the rape victims as well. So this is the point which I like to address.
Okay,
All right.
just I
Harsha,
just
I think we can just give team two the opportunity and then I'll come back to team one.
sure, sure.
Yeah, team two, if you want to contradict the opinions stated by Ishant, anyone from
Yes,
team two?
yes. May I speak?
Yes, Soham, please go ahead.
Isant talked about that it increases the chance of murder. But it is not always so, because actually capital punishment is not given to everybody. A very small portion of the population is given capital punishment. It surely acts as a deterrent, because as talked about that in high courts they were given capital punishment and in supreme courts they were revoked. It actually shows that the judiciary can in fact work out and find out which crimes need capital punishment and which do not. Even the Supreme Court talked about it, that it must be used in the rarest of the rare cases. What we will do about terrorist attacks? Terrorist attacks will increase if we do not induce capital punishment. 166 people were killed in the Mumbai attacks in 2008. Should we not use capital punishment in that regard? This is my
Okay,
question.
if I'm sure.
Yeah, Harsh, you
Uh,
can go ahead now.
yeah, first of all, to start off, I'd like to answer Soham, following which I'll raise a few problems in the points raised by the opposing counsels. To start off, he said that in the high courts gave the death sentence and the Supreme Courts revoked it. This is not the case. I said that the lower courts gave 121 death sentences, and the higher courts, both High Court and the Supreme Courts, revoked a few of them. The issue at hand here is that not all the criminals, not all the people who are serving term in the prison, not all who are facing the judicial might have the resources to fight it actually. So there are times there are times when judiciary might go ahead and make a mistake, and an innocent man might get a death row or some other stringent punishment at that. So to clarify, you can't separate judiciary from the sentencing. They are together. Judiciary will have to be questioned if sentences are disproportionate. Now coming to second thing, that what we are going to do if the terrorist attack, if we should not give death sentences to them or all. 2008, Kasab got caught and he got death sentence. But did it stop terrorists from attacking again? They did come to Pathankot again, right? It didn't. The death sentence to Kasab did not stop them. The army, the government is stopping the terrorists from attacking us, not the death sentence. The death sentence only motivated a few other uneducated individuals across the border to come and do that thing again. So yes, even the terrorist should have a chance to get rehabilitated. Should have a chance to get rehabilitated, because let's assume a case. Kasab is rehabilitated. He sees mistakes in his ways, and he goes ahead in the public and says that these things are wrong. I should not have attacked. This is against Islam. Then there's a chance that those uneducated fools who decide to attack our country might get reminded that no, we do not have to follow some specific few individuals. Following this, I would also like to point out that there's a chance that my opposing counsels might say that the data given by Ishan is again from a Western country and not from India and should not be relevant. I'd like to justify that number that Ishan just gave us. Sir, yes, it is a good point that the West has more income per capita than India. But if you consider the per capita spending, that is also less for India than the West, and that's not because we earn less and we spend less. That's because the basket theory of economy, which compares the prices of item in India and in some other country, says that these things are available cheaper in India. Hence, they need to earn less and spend less, and the economy will be viable. So that theory that they have much more money to spend, I don't think it's much too valid in India's case, because we too have that enough amount. Also, I raised a point in last round. I don't think the opposing counsel understood it, so I'll make it more detailed, and I'd like to clarify it a bit too. I said that many of the victims who are serving in our prison system, these people are the victims of poverty themselves. These people too are educated, and this number is very big. And I'm sure all of the participants, all the judges will agree with this too. That most of the people who are committing crime are uneducated, are poor, And you are saying that we need to spend money on poverty. And yeah, we all agree upon this, that we need to spend more money to eradicate poverty, to give out education. But sir, these people who are in the prison are also uneducated, are also poor, and they are a victim of poverty, which led them to do such crimes of the sentences which they are facing right now. So you are asking the government to spend money on future potential criminals, but not spend that amount of money on the current criminals who can be rehabilitated, who can be introduced back to the society, who can be a good human resources for this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Harsh. Anyone from team two?
Hard stop. Times may speak. Times voice to speak once.
Yeah, Som, you can go ahead. As you spoke first, you can go ahead. No issues.
Times you may speak.
Okay. Okay. So, as my opponent did clear his point, uh, I would like to give you an example from the terrorist attack. You said that terrorists are can be rehabilitated. Of course, sure, terrorists can be rehabilitated. But what happened when the Indian Airlines flight 814 were hijacked, and we have to release the mastermind of 2008 attack? If we would have given then the death penalty, maybe 2008 attacks never could have happened, and we would have saved the thousands of deaths caused in the 2008 attacks and after that. And that mastermind was jailed in India for 7 years, was kept behind the bars for 7 years. Also, you said that potentially spending on criminals today who are behind the bars for some or the other reason can can give us good individuals for the future and could serve in the society in some manner. How are we so sure about it? Because rehabilitation has particularly no data regarding this. That a rehabilitated inmate has uh, come up in the society, reintegrated itself well, and uh, been a good individual to the society and been productive individual to the society. Also, I'll end with asking the uh, question to uh, well, can with limited resources available, how do you justify allocating substantial funds and efforts towards rehabilitation programs that might not yield guaranteed results, as opposed to investing in measures like capital punishment that permanently remove the dangerous individual from the society?
Okay, if Ishant agrees, I'd like to answer these questions since they were mostly directed at the points made by me. To start off, Tanishq mentioned that if the terrorist would have been given life sentence much earlier, then such terrorist incidents would not have happened. Tanishq, here you are just proving my point, and that's the point I am right to say. I was also pointing out that you and me, we do not have the studies proving that death sentences to the terrorist or to anyone have been able to deter other people from following that path. We do not have studies proving the deterrence. In fact, the crime rates, and also I'd like to hear other provisions, other major crimes in which the death penalty or the direct punishments are usually given, that is rape, offenses against children, etc. The crime rates have been increasing. The crime rates against women, the crimes against children, all these have been increasing, as mentioned by the NCRB 2021 report and quoted by me earlier in the debate. In the terrorist scenario too, we do not have any substantial data that proves that the death penalty has deterred terrorists from coming to India and attacking us. It's the army and the government who have a legitimate data showing that these measures taken by them have deterred. Not the death penalty, but the measures taken by army, the preventive measures taken by army, might I add. Second, he said that how do I justify my point of allocating substantial fund to these people? Okay. I'd like to justify my point with an anecdote, if I might. It's not something that I have witnessed myself, but there are cases, and all of us are aware of such cases. We all know that cybercrime has been on increase. The people who commit cyber crimes, few of them are very intelligent, are very well versed with the knowledge of computer programming, etc. If these people are rehabilitated, these people can also be a very good human resource to our country, contributing in economy, contributing in cyber defense going forward. So yes, I can justify my point why we should allocate such fund. Third thing, how I can justify this is because the state has a responsibility. It was the state who failed people to state. It is a state who failed to eradicate poverty and failed to provide education to people, which led them to the path of crime. So it's responsibility of the state to rehabilitate them. Another point that I'd like to add, we have to remember here, even in the case of terrorists, that we are from the nation of Gandhi. An eye for an eye concept cannot be validated here. The concept of retribution cannot be validated in country like ours. Finally, he also said that we do not have any study proving the working of rehabilitation system. We do not have, I agree that we do not have a valid study in India that proves the validity of rehabilitation system. Yes, we lack that study as of now. But what we do have is the failure of the current system in place. We have with us the failure of the capital punishment. We have with us the failure of the direct punishment. And all these failures are published every year in the NCRB crime record data. Every year, for past 1 year, for past 10 years, the crime rate in almost all kinds of major violent crimes has been on increase. It has been on increasing trend not just in India, but other major nations too, following such direct punishment rule. So yes, we have the data that proves ineffectiveness of the direct punishment and of capital punishment too. But yes, we lack the study. So we will need to conduct more such studies on rehabilitation. One such study is Norway. One such study is Norway, and we will have to accept that yes, European countries have put in place a few systems that can be studied and that can be implemented in our country too. Such a study I already mentioned was in Norway in 1990 and 1995, and the difference created in the criminal system and the judicial system was very evident. So yes, I think I've answered all the points raised to my points. Adding to this one, adding to this, there's one other thing. I would like to quote one Chief Justice of US Supreme Court actually, and it's not restricted to capital punishment as such, as we are discussing both capital punishment as well as the direct punishment. So I'll just like to mention something here, that to put people behind walls or bars and do little or nothing to change them, and I'd underline this thing, to change them is to win a battle but to lose a war. It's wrong, it's stupid, and it is expensive. See, direct punishment such as life imprisonment, rigorous imprisonment, all these things, unless these things are paralleled and coupled with rehabilitation, they are of no use. You are just wasting the resources of the country, you are wasting the human resources, and you are just divulging your responsibility. The state is just divulging their responsibility to create a good human resource in the country. Thank you.
May I answer?
Yeah, Soham, go ahead.
First of all, Harsh mentioned cybercrime. Since here we are discussing about the capital punishment, cyber criminals are not given capital punishment. Also, when Harsh talked about that situation, they can be given, just like European countries, they can be given money. And Harsh also talked in one of his previous speeches that we are spending on people who can be criminals. But it must be remembered that if we can alleviate them from poverty, then the chance of them becoming criminals becomes less. Whereas in the case of criminals, they are proven criminals. The chance of their remaining criminals is very high. Also, if the if suppose I consider that the criminal is rehabilitated, it does not mean that he will not engage in that similar thing again, because in Indian society, once a person becomes a criminal, he is not seen with a good eye. I would like to ask hers, how should we counter this thing?
Yeah, I would very much like to answer this. First of all, you mentioned that once there is a proven criminal, there's very less chance of him coming back to the right path. Sir, this is because we are not focusing on rehabilitation. This is because we are focusing on the punitive part of imprisonment and not on the reformative part of it. So I think you are just giving out points to justify our topic that yes, rehabilitation is required for the prisoner. Coming to second point, you mentioned that cyber criminals are not given death penalty, and we should stick to death penalty. As host said, we are not sticking to death penalty specifically. Also, we are covering the direct punishment. If I am right, I'd like the host to clarify that we are also covering the direct punishment of all kinds. Therefore, I gave the anecdotal incident of the cyber criminal. And finally, I'm so sorry, Swan, if you can repeat the last question you just put up.
How
Okay,
can
just
you
to
make the
clarify,
society?
Suham, just a second. Just to clarify, you guys are supposed to focus on direct punishment. So which, it can be anything. It can be life imprisonment. It can be direct
Exactly.
hanging. It
Yeah.
can be any other forms of punishment, but direct. Okay, that's what we actually meant by the topic. To clarify the further debate. Soham, you can go ahead.
How can we make the society realize that a proven criminal cannot can integrate into society?
Yeah, that is how we're going to do that. The step forward in this direction is rehabilitation. Once a criminal is rehabilitated, once a proper education, proper training, proper mental health guidance is given to him, and once he comes back to the society, his acts will help him get integrated into the society. Right now, the punishment system, the direct punishment system that we have put in place, is not helping out criminal. We're just convicting someone and putting them in a place where all other people are just like him, who have broken the law, and we are not putting in place any rehabilitation measure. Hence, once they come out, they come back in a worse state than they went in. If we put a rehabilitation system in place and we treat every criminal as a patient, not just patient of mental illness, of patient of poverty, of victim of lack of education, we treat them as such, we cure them as such, and then we send them back to the society. Their acts will help them get reintegrated into the society. People will start accepting such a guy once he starts contributing to the society. I'll give you an example that I have witnessed myself. There was a doctor, I am not going to name him, from my village, in fact. He was convicted for murder of his wife. He committed murder of his wife, and he was imprisoned for 7 years, a rigorous imprisonment. He went in, he came back, and he was a very well esteemed doctor at that, while he was being convicted. But when he returned, I don't think he was a doctor then. He was a hardened criminal due to the direct punishment system, due to the prison system put in place in our country. He was a hardened criminal when he came back. If rehabilitation measures were put in place, this guy could have been rehabilitated. This guy could have been retaught, retrained. And once he came back, he could have proven himself to be a very great doctor, helping out so many people to live a longer life. I think I have answered your question to the point that I am satisfied with my answer.
I have one more question. May I ask?
Yes, Soham.
Yeah, okay. Suppose you are talking about that resources should be shared between rehabilitation and poverty alleviation. Now, if I say that a poverty stricken person does a criminal, does a crime so that he can enter the rehabilitation center and get resources, what will be your take on that? He is doing a crime so that he can enter the rehabilitation center. It will induce crime among Indians who are mostly poor.
Uh, to the dear opponent, I'll answer that if we start to talk about maybes, if we start to talk about what if, then I think this debate will never end. What if of both the situation, both the punitive system put in place right now and the punitive system that I am suggesting have their what ifs. We should not discuss about what ifs, rather, we should stick to the discussion of what is. And I'll also answer to this that there's chance that people might go into this rehabilitation system just to get these resources rather than stay in the society. Sir, dear sir, here I'd like to mention that I'm not saying that resources shouldn't be divulged to alleviating poverty-stricken people or to grow education in our country. No, these are very important things. And I'm not also not saying that resources should be shared. Sir, resources have to be created anew. We are a growing economy. We are a growing GDP. We are the fastest growing economy in the world. And yes, every year, almost 7% of our economy grows. So, from this growing economy, from this new money that we are creating every year, new resources that we are creating every year, can a certain part not be divulged to people who have been victims of such things such as poverty and education and help them come back into the society? Is it not their right? Is it not their right to ask for these resources, which can make them a better person in future, even if they have not been very good citizen in the past?
So if I am allowed to answer, I'll
Yes,
go
Harish,
ahead.
please go. It's your team's turn.
So as my opponent suggested, made his points, I would like to give you two examples. 2002 Gurda incident, we all know about it, the Gujarat riots. There, Bilkis Bano was raped by a community people, a group of community people, if I'll be clear, and they were convicted uh, for a jail sentence. Recently, they were released due to their political connection and upcoming elections. Today, as of now, today, Supreme Court questioned it. Questioned the bail of them. Secondly, there are many crimes which require a strict punishment to them, like hate crimes, white collar crimes, environmental violations, such as the recent bill passed in Lok Sabha, where the pharmaceutical industries, there was death penalty to them if there are deaths created by their made substances or medicine made by them. But now it's shifted to only economical or money based punishments. Now, if an industrialist commits a crime, do you think it's because of the mental problem? No, I don't think it's because of a mental problem. He wanted to commit a crime, and in these cases where environmental violations are given, or maybe white collar crimes or domestic violence, even domestic violence. In domestic violence, there should be a strict punishment because it's not about mental state, but also of a person who is who uh, wants to assert the dominance over the society. That's the case. Also, I'll end with asking a question that you said, what is and what and maybe could take this discussion for long. Can you give me an example where rehabilitation has uh, has successfully transformed an individual who have committed heinous crimes, leading to the reintegration in as law-abiding citizens? I'll end.
Okay, I'll answer, but I'd also inform the host that going forward, I also like Ishan to participate. I have been hogging a lot of time here. I'm sorry for that, but since this question has also been directed to me,
Yeah, it is being
I will
directed to
answer.
you, and when it will be
Yeah.
directed to Vishant, he'll be
So
definitely
I will
answer.
answer them. To start off, I take objection in the first point made by the opponent. He said that in the Bilkis Bano case, few people were granted. I think their sentence was taken back, and they were freed. I don't think I'm quoting this. I'm presenting this line correctly, but they were freed. He used the term political connections. Due to the political connections, I object to this heavily because there is no proof of political connection and a debate consisting of This number of participants and many other spectators, you should not present any data or anything that's not validated. So I take objection to this, and I'd like that this point is taken back, first of all. Second is that to start off, he asked for example for rehabilitation to have worked. Sir, in India, we do not have a proper rehabilitation system in place. So how can I give you an example of whether it has worked or not? I can only give you data from other countries because it has been implemented there. And I gave you the example of Norway. In Norway, there used to be a centralized prison system by 1990. They transformed it and made a community prison system, community rehabilitation system, and repeat offenders rate decreased from 70% to 25%. Most of the direct punishment were reduced to less than 3 months or to less than 1 year. So yes, it has worked in other countries, but we do not have a rehabilitation system in place so that I can give you an example of it. I think I've covered all the things. In case I have missed, I'd like the opponents to repeat again and answer it happily.
I have one
All right,
question.
it's team two's turn. Yeah, Soham, go ahead.
Since I remembered just now that Hertz talked about poverty. Poverty causes crimes. So is it okay to, if the country becomes rich, we keep capital punishment? That is my one question.
If the country becomes rich, can we keep capital punishment? See, sir, if country becomes rich, let's take example of other countries who are rich, who are developed, like United States, like United Kingdom, and other European countries too. Few of them have capital punishment, few do not have. But I'd like to mention here that with country becoming rich, all the citizens have not become rich. In case, in case that this is ensured in our country, that with country becoming developed, everyone is rich. A socialist state is put in place where everyone has almost same resources at their disposal. Then I think, yes, then I think the Article 14 comes into place, that equality before law and equal protection of law. This equal protection of law has a theory of like treated as like and a like treated as a like will be sort of null and void, because yes, everyone is on the same platform, and in that case all these punitive measures and all will have to be rethought. I'm not saying whether capital punishment should be available then or not. See, I am not a very big expert on these things. I haven't done much research on it. I haven't went on the ground and asked all the prisoners in India whether if this was the case, would you have become a criminal or not. But I think all this system will have to be rethought. That I agree upon, that it has to be changed now, and it will have to be changed if we create a communist or a socialist utopia with everyone having equal resources. It will have to be changed again. But I can only speak to what I am seeing. I can only speak about the developing India that is before my eyes. I cannot speak for the developed India, which is in my dreams. Again, I'm going to repeat myself here, that I cannot talk about what ifs. I'll only speak about what is. Also, moving ahead, I'd just like to say rehabilitation, the most important justification for rehabilitation that is given in the world. I have been trying to avoid it so that I could use it during my concluding part, but I'd like the opponent councils to speak upon it. God has given us this life. The Almighty creature and our parents have given us this life. How can anyone else should have the right to take this life away from me? Yes, a criminal too does not have the right to commit a murder. Yes, he does not have the right to commit a murder. But we should not go ahead and punish him for this. We should rehabilitate him for this, because yes, he did a mistake, but going forward he will not do this if he is rehabilitated, as per my mind. But the same thing when done by the state, the same thing is when done by the state, for whatever reason, they do not have any consequences to their name. So they do not have any consequences. So what right does the state have to take my life away when this life has been given to me by the Almighty God and my parents?
by the same concept, soldiers do not have the right to kill other soldiers, the soldiers of other countries. This is very, I mean, it must be done, because if by your concept, soldiers of our country cannot kill the soldiers of other countries. Terrorists cannot be killed. Rapists who have raped many women and killed many of them cannot be killed. In our country, a very few of the cases are caught, and if they are caught, if we do not take a strong stance, then these they will only be encouraged. Even countries with large population like Japan and United States keep the capital punishment.
Sir, please. I think you have a very much. You do have a very big hole in your point that if rapists are not convicted of death penalty or of other punishment, if other criminals are not convicted of such penalties, they will only be encouraged. Sir, I gave you data. I have given you twice already. I am giving you this third time that only from 2020 to 2021, that's just 1 year I am considering, and I am quoting National Crime Records Bureau here, that offenses against women have increased 15.1%. 15.1% in just 1 year, and has been on an increasing trend in last decade and more even in last 50 years, I'll say. I have two incidents in my mind. One is Ranga Billa case, if you guys know about it. It's from Delhi. It's from Karol Bagh area. Two people kidnapped a young girl and his brother. They raped the girl. They killed him, and they were given punishments. And then I have in mind the Nirbhaya case. The four people from Nirbhaya were also given death penalty. I think three were given death penalty and one was juvenile at the time. Sir, even after those punishments, the rape incidents, all the offenses against women, the POXO incidents have been increasing. They haven't reduced. So how are these provisions working? How come you say that the death penalties and the other direct punishments are discouraging people from committing these crimes when the crime against women and crime against children has been on increase in last 10 years?
Am I allowed to speak?
Yeah, Tanishka, go ahead.
So, as Harsh stated the points, uh, yes, the crimes are increasing. Yeah, I agree to that. The crimes are increasing, but as you said, as we are the fastest growing GDP in the world, we also have 45% unemployment present in the world, and the core systemic issue for the crimes to increase is unemployment. And also, when we say after Nirbhaya, I'll take your example. After Nirbhaya, the setup of fast track courts were uh, uh, introduced. The concept of fast track courts were introduced, where where rape cases and sexual harassment cases are judged and they judged on a fast pace as well. And when you say the increase in numbers, there also increase in conviction rates as well. The criminal, first of all, these harsh punishments, encourage people to actually register their complaint. Previously, women were afraid to register complaint even. Now, with coming of POXO Act and after Nirbhaya case, where uh, women know that people of India stand with them, they are encouraged to register for the punishment. And they know that the accused who did things to them will be behind the bars and will get stricter punishments. When we talk about criminals, we we should not forget about victims. Why we are When we are saying that okay, criminals be better, could become a better could become a better citizen for the society in future after rehabilitation, but what they have done to the victim which who has done nothing, who is completely innocent, and in present, not in future, in present could been a better human, better productive human to the society, has been affected by what happened to him because of that criminal. And if we don't give a stricter punishment to that accused, the victim will feel a sense of injustice. And how will you deal with that? What will you tell the victim that okay, you're the person who committed this heinous crime to you will become a better human being in maybe 10, 20, 30 years after rehabilitation. Will come back and change the society for good or something like that. That's my point.
Okay, I'll just say this. You gave the point that victim might perceive that justice is not being done to them. This point was also raised in the opening statement by the opposition counsel, that public perception has to be kept in mind if the death penalty or the strict punishments that are being given are taken back. Then this will erode the trust of people, and the trust deficit might get created. Uh, I'd again reiterate a point that I have already made. Our judicial system has this belief that uh, that retribution is not which will guide the decision. Retribution should never be the point that guides a decision. Only deterrence and incapacitation. These two things are kept in mind by the judges when a penalty is being given, whether it is death penalty or any other stringent punishment. Our judicial system, as a standard operating procedure, just keeps two things in mind, that is deterrence and incapacitation. Incapacitating the criminal from committing further such crime and deterring other people from doing such things. But but you said that and you pointed out that cases have been registered, more cases have been registered after POXO and all, and hence the crime rate has increased. You can justify the increase in crime rate from 2012 to 2022 with that point, with that logic. But what about the increase in crime rate in the past 50 years when there was no POXO? And yet the crime against women was on an increasing trend. People were still registering those cases, and the number of cases registered in 1 year was more often than not more than the last year. That was without POXO. That was without such measures introduced after Nirbhaya and all. The basic underlying theory that crime is on increase even after such stringent measures and the death penalties have been kept in place for 70 plus years. In fact, IPC was introduced by the Britishers only. Even after such a long time, since 1860 to 2022, IPC has been placed, and yet crime is on increasing trend. The underlying theory is that the punitive measures right now in place is not working effectively, and we need to look at rehabilitation as an alternative measure. That's the point being put up here, that we have to look at the alternative measures, and we cannot stick to this point that yes, current system is very good, current system is very effective, and we should not change it. There's requirement of change, there's a necessity of change, and rehabilitation provides us a proper alternative, a tested alternative in different countries. So why not implement it and see if it works or not? Why should we stick to this stringent punishment and punishment norms? Also, I'd like to add here, taking into account a few cases, I think a political statement was already made, so I'll also ask host to indulge me. And my statement is well justified and taken into consideration by the Supreme Court too. There was a case in Uttar Pradesh where a girl was raped, allegedly raped, I should say, by a MLA of certain party. She went ahead and registered a case in POXO. She went ahead and registered a case in POXO, and rightly so. But then uh, she got murdered. Her family members got murdered, and these stringent provisions only motivated those criminals to commit another crime so as to protect themselves. I think this point was made by Ishant, that the punishment system in place right now sometimes motivate criminals to commit another crime, and this was the example of it. And it happened in Uttar Pradesh in 2017 that a girl got raped, and her family and herself got murdered for registering the case. Whereas, if I should not speak about if, but I'll just say here that if rehabilitation was in place, it would have been easier for courts to convict those people. It would have been easier for them to go ahead and imprison them or send them to rehabilitation facility, because they do not have to decide in that case whether this guy has to live or not. They only have to decide whether this guy has to be sent to rehabilitation facility or not. And let's say for a year or two, This person goes into a rehabilitation and comes back a new man, and you don't know, and I don't know too, that whether he would come out as a new man. But let's say if he did, he would have been a good human resource to us. And I'm sorry again for indulging this what if situation. I should not indulge that. But the only point I'm trying to make is that we lack this rehabilitation system, the proper rehabilitation system right now in India. An introduction of it can reform our judicial and criminal system to a long extent.
Okay, just before proceeding to the team two, I would request Ishant to state his POV because this will be, after proceeding to the team two, whatever they will be speaking, that will be the last statement or the motion of round three due to the time constraints. So before proceeding ahead to team two, I would request Ishant if he wants to state anything.
Yes, hello.
Yeah,
Uh,
Ishant. Go ahead.
yeah, I would like to ask Soham a question. Soham brought up that point that even the developed countries like USA and Japan has capital punishment. So I would like to know, is it effective in these countries? Like crime in this country has really be reduced due to the capital punishment.
All right, Ishan. So I'll proceed ahead to team two, and I would request team two to not to ask any questions to team one because this will be the last motion of round three. So you just have to answer Ishan's question and clarify your points. Okay. So team two, you can go ahead. Any of you.
Okay. First of all, I would like to mention that if rehabilitation centers are brought up, the crime will reduce, but not because the crimes have reduced. That would be because people will take law in their own hands. Communities will fight among themselves. And as per Isant asked, has crime reduced in Japan or the United States? That in the United States is a democratic country, so crimes have reduced there, but not of the scale which happened in Japan. In Japan, crimes have reduced by a lot. That is all I have to say.
Tanishk, if you want to say something.
Yeah, I like to state the point you have stated that first of all, the core issue, the core issue of why crimes happen, why crime rate increases, uh, is not okay. I'll take your example where the MLA example you gave. Why do you think he has he did murder the child, and why did people got encouraged by that incident? It's because they knew that because of the political power of an MLA, he was able to do that. It's not because of the strictness of the capital punishment or not. It was because of the involvement of political powers in it. Even if the MLA was sent to rehabilitation center, what is the guarantee that he would have stayed in there for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or whatever his sentence would be? We have seen many many prisoners who had political powers or were associated with political powers given special treatments in the jail, in the prisons, while they were facing severe sentences given by different courts. So when they are given rehabilitation or a sentence of rehabilitation, they might access these political powers and come out or use their influence to influence others to encourage them to commit crime because they will just be rehabilitated and given no sentence, no stricter punishment to in these cases, these heinous crimes. That's all.
Okay.
If the host can indulge
No,
me for just
sorry to interrupt here, but you can convey your point of view in the closing statement. Okay,
okay,
because
sure,
this was the last motion to be taken.
sure.
As team one had initiated round three, team two will be concluding it. So this leads to the conclusion of round three. It was indeed a very furious debate for about 50 minutes, and I have been enjoying it. We'll move ahead to round four, which is the closing statement round, where both the participants of both the teams will be providing a concluding statement, presenting all the points that they have stated. It will be just a conclusion. So I would invite Ishant Patel from Team One to present his closing statement.
Okay. As we advocate for the abolition of the death penalty, we join the global trend towards more human justice system, as around 140 countries had already abolished the death penalty. Many countries have already abolished, recognizing that it is not a solution but a continuation of violence. By embracing rehabilitation, we position ourselves as champion of progress and empathy on world stage. The time has come for us to reevaluate our approach to justice. Abolishing the death penalty and embracing rehabilitation is a powerful statement of our values. It reflects our dedication to preserving human life, our belief in the political potential for positive change, and our commitment to crafting a safer and more just society. Rehabilitation has various advantages like preserving human rights and dignity. Risk of wrongful execution is reduced. Rehabilitation focuses on addressing the root cause of the criminal behavior. It is also less. There is also cost efficiency as legal process of death penalty is very lengthy. It has very positive social impact, like it promotes more compassionate and understanding society. So I would like to conclude that let us stand united in pursuit of a better future, one built on compassion, understanding, and unwavering belief in the capacity of redemption.
All right. Thank you, Ishant. I would invite Harsh from Team 1 to present his closing statement.
I thank the host for giving us the opportunity to be part of this debate to start off. And I'd like to say that the concept of rehabilitation lies on the theory that there are some factors at play which contribute to this criminal behavior of an individual. There are many external as well as internal factors that contribute to criminal behavior of people. These factors could be lack of parental love, a traumatic childhood, insecurity, antisocial values, the lack of supervision, and impulsive temper, and etc. The rehabilitation model that has been put in place in a few other countries and that is being put forward by the human rights activists focus focus that the crime committed by an individual is not at the free will of the offender but due to the various factors which could have contributed to initiate such an act. So, as Ishant mentioned, we have to focus on redemption rather than retribution. We have to go ahead with the philosophy of Gandhi that we cannot start off punishing right and left for crimes committed. Rather, we have to focus on rehabilitating them and bringing them back to the society so that they can contribute in a better way. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to me to speak.
Thank you so much, Team 1, for presenting your closing statement. I'll move ahead to Team 2. I would invite Soham Mandal from Team 2 to present his closing statement.
Tanis Koja would present the first statement.
Okay,
May
so Tanish, you can proceed ahead with your closing statement.
Yeah, thank you. To conclude our discussion today, I'd like to present a final perspective. Within the theory of binary opposition, the age old struggle between good and evil is evident. However, the true significance lies not merely in determining a winner, but in understanding the cost associated with that victory. Capital punishment in this context assumes the role of holding the accused accountable for their actions and serves us as a stark reminder that certain boundaries should never be crossed. By drawing a definitive line and attaching serious consequences, this approach seeks to uphold the values that underpin in a just society. I'll hand over to you, Soham, for ending remarks.
Okay. As already mentioned in the first two rounds by my friend Tanisk, holding people accountable for their crimes is important. We cannot just let people go. This would simply erode the trust of the public in the justice system, motivating them to take the law in their own hands. A single crime could lead to a chain reaction of crimes which would not have happened if severe punishments like capital punishments were kept. We must always remember this saying: injustice is relatively easy to bear, what stings is justice. I would like to thank Synapse Society for giving me and my teammate Tanis a wonderful opportunity to take part in this event. We would also like to thank the other team, the judges, and the audience for lending us your valuable time listening to our views. It has been a truly wonderful experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Team 2. This leads to the conclusion of the closing statement round. We'll move ahead to the last round of our debate, which is the audience Q&A round, where anyone from the audience, the hosts, and the judges will be asking both the teams. The questions might be directed to a single team or to both the teams. So the audience, the judges, and the hosts will be asking a few questions, and the teammates are supposed to answer them. This won't be a debate, okay? Only the directed team will be answering the question. So we'll be moving ahead to round number 5, which is audience Q&A round. Anyone from the audience or from the judges or hosts, of course, have to ask any questions?
So I would like to ask a question to Team One. How do you balance the need to hold the offenders accountable for their actions, along with the goal of reintegrating them back into the society?
Okay,
If
so
I'm allowed to
team one,
answer,
yeah, Harsh, go ahead.
yeah. See, there is definitely a need to balance these two things: the punitive measures put in place right now, and the measures proposed by the human rights activists and by Team One here. There is need to strike a right balance between these two things. But what I am suggesting, see, I do not have proper data as of now regarding how rehabilitation will be introduced, because there has been no such study in us. To start off, we have to conduct the studies, like how rehabilitation system will work in our country, following which, to start off as a pilot project in a few states, in a few union territories, we'll have to start off with smaller crimes, less violent crimes, and we rather than punishing them, rather than giving them sentence of 2 year 3 year, we just send them to rehabilitation for a few months and test them. If these things start to work, they'll have to be generalized in entire country for non-violent offenses, following which they will have to be introduced slowly, but definitely in future, to all the crimes in general. And we'll have to introduce to these things slowly. And yes, there will be situation where these rehabilitation system might not work, but the death penalty, the stringent rigorous imprisonment, the life imprisonment, these punishments should not be given for the first offense as a rule, according to me, because even Krishnji forgave his brother for 99 offenses, and only in the 100th time he took the life of said individual. He forgave him for 99 times. At least our judicial system should go ahead and forgive, not forgive, but give the opportunity to individual to better himself through these rehabilitative measures. And then, in case there are incidents of repeat offenders, then these offenders can be given rigorous imprisonment and other life sentences and etc. This is how these system will have to be introduced in a balanced way. But the kind of human right activities are going across the globe. In future, there will come a time when life imprisonment and rigorous imprisonment, things like these, will have to be blatantly banned in future, in future. But to start off, yes, a pilot project in few small communities, along in the non-violent offenses, going ahead with introducing these things in the case of first offense, and then making it a general rule way ahead in the future. That's how I think a good balance can be stricken.
All right, Ishant, if you want to add something to this answer, because it was directed to team one only.
No, I think it was a perfect reply by hers.
Okay. So anyone else from the audience, if he or she has to ask any questions, the judges as well. Yes, Vignesh, you can go ahead.
Okay, so this question is for the team which is for direct punishment, that is Tanish and Soham, if I'm not wrong. So, how do you see the direct punishment being given in minor offenses or to people who have done the crime, like who are not criminals but have done a certain crime? What I mean to say is they are not history cheaters. They have not. They do not have a track record of crime, but they have done one specific crime, maybe by people who are underage or people who are not likely to repeat the crime.
May I answer?
Yes,
Yes, go ahead.
Soham.
For people who are underage, it is true that they are minors and hence should be respected in a way that their brains are not yet fully developed. So capital punishments cannot be given in a straight way. Also, capital punishment takes time. Means that Nirbhaya case took 8 years for the three to be hanged. Also, as per your question, small incidents are not given very big punishments. They are jailed for 1 night or 2 nights and they are given bail. It is the reality. They are given bail. So this is not a very relevant question as they are actually given bail and not given a sort of very great punishment. But that harassment stops these crimes from occurring more frequently.
So, um, the question was more about direct punishment than capital punishment, that is not rehabilitation but punishment. So, the question is the follow up question that in case of minor offenses where uh, like for which jail of 1 to 2 years prescribed but no sort of rehabilitation is done, what is to be done in such cases?
So, if I'm allowed to answer this question, uh, I'll go with if uh, so. If you could clear me on this, that it's a minor crime or a minor who did crime. What's your question?
So the original question was regarding both these circumstances, but now the question is the follow-up question is: suppose there is a crime for which the prescribed punishment currently is 1 years of jail or equivalent fine. Okay, so
Yeah.
should such a punishment be given, be awarded, or on its behalf, a chance at rehabilitation by maybe um, there are different procedures which I think the other team
Yeah.
can better explain, be given.
So I think if it's a minor crime, and the judicial system has given of 1 or 2 years sentence, even if we give a chance of rehabilitation, which will be a good, of course, good opportunity to the criminal to come back or and reintegrate himself into society. But so does the jail time as well. The jail time, on the other hand, will uh, give a message to the society from where the criminals like them would be not would not be encouraged to commit that sort of crime again, and that's a clarity of a message that we are talking about here. Even minor to minor crimes, we have to give a message to the society that yes, the law is a law, and punishments are so strong that no one can that if you commit or cross a certain line, you will be punished, and that punishment could also work as a rehabilitation program. And we have seen many examples where an individual went in a jail, the jail changed their life, and they come back and become reintegrated themselves in the society more than very well, and became a very a good individual after the sentence. I'll end my answer there. Thank you.
Okay, there's another follow-up question here. Which is better, a direct imprisonment where the person who is maybe accused of theft will get direct jail time, or maybe some community service which is better as a form of rehabilitation? certain hours of community service.
So yeah, community service. Taking the context of India, where a small theft or any kind of theft is around, for first offense, I'm talking about this, is around 15 days to 6 months. This is the period that the first offender gets for a theft. And I think even if they are rehabilitated, they'll do the it will give them the same value change in them as the sentence would do. Main, yeah, community service is important, but in within jail there are community services. Many jail provide inmates the possibility to manufacture their to do jobs and uh, to grow themselves when they are staying or when they are within their sentence, when they are uh, uh, getting their sentence done, basically. So I think the jail time for minor crimes, I'm clarifying minor crimes like thefts or where the sentence is less, I think that will not affect as per rehabilitation or a jail sentence, anyways.
Okay, that will be it from this team. For the other team, the question is which has a more chance of preventing crime as an individual, which is a better deterrent. W- Like if you do a certain crime, you will be given a direct punishment, maybe capital punishment, or whether you will be like fed on state's money, which is more likely from a rational point of view to prevent crime.
Okay. Ishant, if you want to go ahead first. I'll start answering the question in case Ishant doesn't want to. To start off, the question again is in what if, what is more likely to work as a deterrent? Uh, we do not have any studies regarding whether rehabilitation will work as a deterrent in India or not. We do not have any such studies, but we have for a fact a data proving that the measures, the direct punishments put in place as of now are not working as a deterrent. They are failing as a deterrent because crime is on increasing trend. I don't think any of us is in right position to answer the question to give that which method is likely to work as a deterrent. But yes, I think that uh, the criminals have the right to be rehabilitated. Once they are rehabilitated, once they come back to the society, they will have a better influence on people who would have committed crime. They can come back to the society, do a certain community service, start off their educational institute or something. They can start contributing to the society, which will give examples to certain unprivileged people who would have who might have committed crime. They would see this individual, see how he has transformed his life. He was a hardened criminal and he came back a new man. They see this, they'll get motivated to make themselves better, and they'll start to work in improving their situation. If you ask me, my opinion, then my opinion is that rehabilitation will also have a very good effect as a deterrence, because serving a community time, serving a serving a certain rehabilitation sentence will seem to public as a punishment, whereas it is improving the prisoner. As well as once these prisoners come out, the positive influence that they give to the society will also help motivate people to make their lives better. So my opinion is that deterrence will work better, but there is no such study in India to prove whether rehabilitation will work as a deterrence or not. So I don't think anyone of us is in a position to answer this very specifically.
Okay, so the follow-up question which naturally follows is that if people see that a person who committed a crime is now a well integrated member of the society and has improved, won't they feel that doing a crime did nothing, like had no consequences on the person?
I don't think so, because see, here we are discussing the perception rather than what actually is happening. What's the perception to the people? If we speak about perception, then even a rehabilitation sentence might seem like a punishment to those in public, and it is sort of a punishment that you are giving depending on the situation of the criminal. It is the punishment is go to the school. The punishment is go help government in building roads. These are punishment of sort. So I don't think a perception will be created that there are no consequence to the crime. They are serving some form of sentence which is helping them individually too. That's the nature of rehabilitation, that it is a sort of punishment, but it is also helping them grow as a human being. I think this the perception of seeing these things would be for better on the society rather than for worse, that like committing a crime will not have any consequence.
Okay, I think this will be all from my side.
Thank you,
Okay.
Vignesh. If anyone else has to ask any questions from the audience, or I think I can proceed with my questions if anyone, if no one else has to ask any questions. Hemlata, I can see Vignesh has already asked his questions. Asmita has already asked his question. All right. So I'll be proceeding ahead with my questions. I'll be interrogating team one first, and then I'll move ahead to team two. Okay. So these questions are from team one, which has Ishant and Harsh. Okay, Ishant and Harsh are the participants of team one. So Ishant and Harsh, the question is: imagine a situation when a terrorist who has murdered, allegedly murdered hundreds of people in a city or throughout a state, or imagine a serial killer or a rapist who has raped or again murdered a dozen people. What do you think, if you are the person, if you are the person investigating that particular case? Imagine you are the person investigating that particular case. What will be your first action, as you are supporting rehabilitation in this debate? Will you be actually rehabilitating that person because he has murdered decades and dozens and dozens of people? So will you be focusing on rehabilitating him first, or will you be giving him direct punishment? Because of course, murdering someone is not a mistake, it's a crime. So, what will be your, force of action and your modus operandi in this situation? To the team one.
If Ishant would like to go first.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, Ishan.
Actually, yeah. First of all, I would like to go to the root cause. What might have motivated that person who has committed the crime? Suppose, in case of the murder, uh, there could have been mental or personality disorders, like various kind of personality disorders such as psychopathy, uh, or narcissistic personality disorder motivates this kind of crime on mass scale. Or in when you are talk about the terrorism, like mostly when we talk about the real life situation, a lot of the terrorists are influenced by the religious fanatics. They are more they are like you can say that they have been uh, manipulated by their leaders. So in various cases we have to go to the root causes, like what may have motivated them, so we can prevent that kind of situation in future. We can use that kind of awareness to that this sort of thing not happen in future. And so this was my point. I would like to invite hers to add more if you want to.
Thank you, Ishan. Adding to this point, first of all, as the gentleman asked, as an investigating officer, how would I proceed? To start off, investigating officer is not someone who gives out punishment. It's the job of the judge. Investigating officer has to be objective. So neither does
Imagine you
does
are
he
the
have
person
to.
who is, handling the case. You are
Yeah,
either judging it or
let's say I am a
investigating.
SHO I am a SHO of the Thana where a terrorist killed a few people, and I am investigating officer of the case. I am neither responsible for rehabilitating them, nor am I responsible for punishing them. The only responsibility that I have is to investigate the case objectively and present that case to the honorable judge. And let's say I am a judge of that district of the district court, and I receive evidence that the certain person is a terrorist, has committed these crimes. I have all those things. Now, if I answer whether I should go ahead with rehabilitation or I should give out punishment, there are 2 points to this. The first point will be either I can fight the terrorist from case to case basis or I can fight the terrorism. To fight the terrorism, I can rehabilitate this individual. I can go ahead and counsel him, and I can go ahead, provide him proper guidance that this particular individual, you have been brainwashed, you have been radicalized. Come back to the society, see the mistakes that you have done. And if this person is rehabilitated, I can present him to the society as a model man who changed himself, which would demotivate other people who could have been radicalized to do the same thing. Secondly, again here, as a judge who has to give out punishment either of rehabilitation or of let's say death sentence or rigorous imprisonment or life imprisonment, as a judge, there's another thing that I'll have to keep in mind, and that's something that Indian judicial system does keep in mind. The terrorist will is not, even now the terrorist is not punished because he killed 10 people. That's not the theory of we work upon. That's retributive theory, and so in many judgments Supreme Court has said that Indian judicial system does not work on retributive theory. We work on deterrent and incapacitance theory. So we can give out him a punishment to him so as to deter people, but I have already answered that it would be better to rehabilitate him and present him to the society, and that could have a better deterrent effect on the society per se. That you should not be radicalized, you should not be brainwashed. See this individual, he was brainwashed and committed such crimes, and now he is giving out the reasons why he was wrong. We can present him as such. I think that is how, as a judge, I would proceed. As an investigating officer, like the question was directed, I have to be objective. None of those two things are my responsibility in that case.
All right, I got your point. So another follow-up question which naturally comes to my mind is, as Mr. Ishant rightly said, that you will be going to the root cause of why the crime was committed. Now, if a rapist has raped, or if a person has murdered any random person for the sake of revenge, there is no mental illness in him or her. There is no another particular reason. There is no involvement of poverty, and he is well educated as well. So if all these conditions are being satisfied, and if he or she has murdered another random person for the sake of revenge, how will you justify rehabilitation in this case? Because this is a crime, this needs to be punished by the judiciary system. So how do you think can rehabilitation prove to be helpful in this case?
Okay, answering this, I have to start off by making a point that revenge, revenge is a sort of expression of temper, and even this situation is a mental health problem. There's a tendency in our country to ignore many such things. We consider it as everyday normal activities, whereas these things are a mental health issue and we ignore them. The rehabilitation measure put in place will ensure that a psychologist goes to the root cause why he was motivated to take the revenge. He would work on this individual and make him and transform him in a way that he can control his temper issues. He is not never again motivated to take revenge and etc. in future. And he can come out and apologize, and not just apologize, but present a case to other such people who are thinking of taking these revenge and all, that, see, you are wrong here, you have to consider these things, that what we are doing is not right, go to the psychologist if you have these things. Such an individual can be presented as an example. The deterrence cannot is not limited to killing someone or punishing someone and saying to the society, see, if you do that, we'll give you this punishment. The deterrence could also be by providing a model example. And yeah, revenge activities like, let's say, throwing acid or someone, or raping someone, or any such crimes, they are heinous crimes. I do not disagree with that. These are heinous crimes, these are crimes against humanity. But even in this case, it does not mean that the human committing these crimes against humanity has lost his human rights. He has these rights by taking a birth as a human, and no one should take these rights away from him. He should have an opportunity of rehabilitation.
All right.
I hope I was able to satisfy you with my answer.
Okay, I got your point. This will be the last question for team one, and this is a two-parted question. Then I'll be proceeding to team two. Okay, so the last question for team one, it is a two-parted question. The first part is, as Mr. Harsh just said, that, after you rehabilitate a terrorist, and if he or she accepts the crime and is ready to apologize in front of the entire society, you might present him or her in front of the entire society as a role model. Do you think do you think the society will accept that person as a role model, or as an example that rehabilitation is fruitful, because the entire society knows that that person has killed hundreds of people? What do you think will society do? If the society disagrees to that point, how will you react? This is the first part. The second part is, as you rightly said, revenge is a form of temper. I definitely agree. Now, you had stated how education can be fruitful for criminals. I remember an example where a student from IIT Kharagpur is one of the renowned institutions of the country. So this does necessarily mean that he was an educated guy. He was from a good family. Both of his parents were very well educated. They were teachers in a government school, and he was himself an IITN with a good rank. Still, for the sake of fun, for the sake of enjoyment in his college life, he online, harassed a few girls from a public school in Delhi. Okay, I don't remember the name of the school, but he had harassed some girls from the school in Delhi for the sake of fun. There was no involvement of revenge. There was no other involvement. He was not mentally ill as well. So, what is your take on this situation? How will you deal with this guy? Like such people, not this guy particularly, but such people. This is a two-parted question, so you can go ahead, team one.
Hello.
Ishan.
uh, yeah, I would like to answer the second part, that which you asked, like some people committing crime for fun. Actually, when you look at the people who are committing this kind of crime and getting some kind of pleasure out of it, it is also you can see that it is a very sadistic form of personality. So even when you say that they are doing it and having fun, but it is also can be seen as a some kind of mental disorder. Like no normal person will enjoy someone giving pain. It is some kind of a very serious mental health issue, or you can say a personality disorder, that that motivates a person that get pleasure out of someone's pain. So that was my response to second part.
Okay, since Ishant has started off by answering the second part only, I'll just add a very small point to that, following which I'll answer the first part. The thing is, we see crime as a activity, that certain person has done a certain thing. We see it as a verb. But according to me, as per my opinion, crime is not just an activity, it is also a result of certain situations, result of certain circumstances. As the example mentioned, that person from the student from IIT Kharagpur is a well-educated individual, but he has a personality disorder, and there must be reasons due to which he must have these disorder. It's not like he was born with these disorders. Society must have inculcated these things in him. Criminals are not born; they are made. So since state was responsible for providing the situation, providing the circumstances in which no criminal should be made, and the state failed in it. Hence, it's responsibility of the state to rehabilitate this individual who became a criminal due to certain circumstances, who became a criminal as a result of certain circumstances. So, in any case, and I'm saying it as a general trend, not only for this certain sadistic individual from IIT Kharagpur, I'm saying it in a general term. All the criminals are made; they are not born. Nobody. The first thought in our mind is never that. Okay, let's kill that guy or let's harass that individual. The situation make us think so. So yes, it's responsibility of the state to rehabilitate all these people. Coming to the first part, whether the society will accept this and accept this person, accept the terrorist who we are introducing as the model of rehabilitation. That see, the entire society does not have to accept him as a model. Only those who are being radicalized have to see him as a model. Let's take example of let's take example of Ajmal Kasab only. In case we would have been able to rehabilitate him, we could have brought him out in media, and he would have said that yeah, certain individual from certain country and certain organization radicalized me and motivated me, and I, being an uneducated person, fell into the trap. I encouraged the youth of that specific country to not take up arms, to not follow me in this path. And I don't know how much effect it would have, but it would surely have some effect on some individuals on that specific rogue nation, and the legitimacy of those brainwashers would have reduced by in this case. Not entire society had to accept him as a model, but those who are facing the similar issues, who are facing the similar circumstances, have to accept that guy as a model.
Okay, I got your take. This was all from my side for team one. I'll be moving ahead to team two, which has Soham and Tanishk as the participants. Okay, so the first question for team two is, basically, if you look at an example, let's say Jeffrey Dahmer, who was a serial killer from USA who had killed, I don't remember the exact number, but let's say more than 10 people for a reason because he was mentally harassed in his childhood. Okay, he was mentally harassed in his childhood. He had no friends. And that was the prior reason he was murdering men, especially. He had murdered only all the men. So, what do you think in such cases when a person has committed a crime for a reason because he's mentally ill? Don't you think that rehabilitation can be helpful? Or will you just directly punish him because you are supporting direct punishment in this debate? What is your take on this? Will you be firstly investigating the case? Will you be rehabilitating him, or will you be directly punishing him without knowing the reason?
So if I'm allowed to answer,
Yeah,
I'll
Tanish,
go for
Tanish, go
this
ahead.
question. Yeah. Yeah. So taking the case of Jeffrey Dahmer, of course, I have read about the background of his case, but the fact is, we have to see things practically. Uh, Even how can we say that particular the jail time without giving him capital punishment, that is punishment to death? You have to face some jail time before uh, getting punished to death or maybe getting sentenced. If Jeffrey Dahmer was suppose that he was sentenced, can rehabilitate can we say rehabilitation would have changed him? I don't think so. We would have rehabilitated him for 10 years, 15 years to change his mindset because childhood trauma stays. Psychological studies state that childhood trauma stays. Even after even after many years, the childhood trauma stays. You cannot take out childhood trauma. That is the case. When these individuals commit crime, it's the aftermath which tells us that yes, this individual had been traumatized in past or in childhood, but to punish them, to punish them creates clarifies a message to the society that this individual committed that heinous crime by killing uh, 10 or more men or killing even one man because of anything. I say because of anything, because of any childhood, any trauma, any mental thing, but he killed the man. He crossed that line that the society has made not to be crossed. In any case or scenario, if someone crosses that line, we have to state that if you cross this line, there is a punishment which you will face and you should be punished. The society needs you to be punished to create you as an example where anything you do, of course, if even if you have mental illness or had childhood trauma, because of that motivated you to kill men or kill humans, anyone, that is not that is not a reason to justify that you should be rehabilitated and you might become a good human being after rehabilitation. You might become the same because there is no particular data or anything like that. If I That's my point.
Okay, I got your point. So you're basically supporting direct punishment in this case as well, right?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
supporting.
So, as you said, rehabilitation will not ensure that the person will become better or not. I agree. Nothing in this entire world will ensure if the criminal will be turned out to be a good person or not. But imagine a next situation to state a few statistics where, let's say Norway. In Norway, where rehabilitation is one of the main forms in their judicial system, the crime reoffending rate. What I mean by crime reoffending rate is, suppose a person named X has been imprisoned for, let's say, murdering a person. Okay, murdering one person, he has been imprisoned for 10 years. After 10 years, when he gets out of the prison, he will be a more dangerous criminal. Okay, because he was imprisoned for 10 years, he will be a more dangerous criminal and he'll again murder 5 to 6 more people. So it will take 5 to 6 more lives. This is what crime reoffending rate means. So in countries like Norway, where rehabilitation is, the main form of punishment in their judicial system, the crime reoffending rate is relatively low as compared to other countries where direct punishment, okay, where direct punishment, whether it is life imprisonment, whether it is hanging out, where direct punishment is more effective. So why do you think that Norway has a less crime reoffending rate as compared to the other countries where direct punishment is more effective? Because it is clearly stating from the statistics that rehabilitation can be fruitful as well from the statistics of Norway. So what is your take on this, team 2?
Okay, the concept of Norway cannot be brought into India because we know that India is growing, but India has not developed to that level. We do not have that much money that we can, be educated to that extent. And also, we cannot rehabilitate so many people. Who will be looking after the rehabilitation centers? Rehabilitation centers will not work like that. It is not possible. Practically, it is infeasible. That is all I have to say. In Norway, it is possible because they have very less criminals, and so rehabilitation centers are also less. If Tanis wishes to add something, he may do so.
Yeah, I'll add a point. As Soham mentioned, that population and crime rate are far less in Norway. Also, these rehabilitation data, there is no particular data where heinous crimes are actually mentioned. There are data where they have studied in where capital punishment is involved, but there is no data for rehabilitation. They have not specified any rehabilitation data. And also, if somehow we can, or if a person gets rehabilitated, comes back, what is the guarantee that he will not commit a crime again? He can also commit a crime in the punish the 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 capital punishment ensures a message to the society that a clarity of message that punishments are strict, and if someone is committing a particular crime, he has been faced. But in rehabilitation, there is no clarity of message. One individual faces something, and other individual faces something, and then on release out. And also, we still do not know if the individuals reintegrating after rehabilitation are actually safe for the society or not. There is no parameter or a certain test to test those inmates uh, who were rehabilitated for heinous crimes and got reintegrated to the society. Are they safe for the society or not? Also, taking the case of Norway, Norway also has a good employment rate. So the inmates after rehabilitating has some work to do, has something to do, put themselves into something productive, make themselves a livelihood, and and maintain and live their life on their own for the till where they live. But in certain countries, suppose in India, if we use this example, it's not possible to give employment to these people or livelihood to these people after, or even if it is possible, it's very unlikely that society would accept it. That's all my point is.
Okay, I got your take, and this will be the last question from my side to team two, and this will also lead to the conclusion of round five and the debate. Okay, so the last question is, as I can see, team two is clearly in the favor of direct punishment and death penalty. Now, imagine a situation when a person has killed another person for the necessity of self-defense. Okay, if let's say there are two people, X and Y, and if X is trying to kill Y for a reason, whatever the reason might be, but in the same situation, if Y killed X just for the sake of self-defense, so won't you even try to listen to why he killed, or will you be directly punishing him directly? As you stated, you are in favor of the direct punishment. What is your take? How will you react in this situation?
In favor of direct punishment does not mean we'll give direct punishment to everybody. In the Indian penal code, it is mentioned that if anybody does it for self defense, for if anybody attacks another person for self defense to the extent that might be required, then he or she has the right to do it. It does not mean that it will not be hard. All the justice system is present. After thorough investigation, the judge will give the punishment to the person if he is it is seen that he or she has committed the crime on grounds other than self defense or similar reasons.
Okay, but there might be, kind of situation when the accused. Okay, let's imagine a different situation. For example, many of the times the law is misused by a certain number of people. Let me reframe my question. Okay, so law is misused by a certain number of people. Let's take an example of a movie named as Article 375, which is based on a true story in which a woman accuses a man of raping her, although he hadn't raped her. Okay, but still that person, the man who was imprisoned for raping her, still he was imprisoned for, like, I don't remember the exact punishment, but he was imprisoned although he hadn't raped her. So don't you think rehabilitation could have been fruitful over here in this situation? At least the judicial system and the legal system could have tried to listen to the opinion of the man as well, instead of just focusing on the woman who had just fakely accused. So in these cases, don't you think rehabilitation can be fruitful as compared to direct punishment?
So in this case, actually, it's a fault of judicial system and not the punishment system. The punishment system, rather the case is true. The man has raped the women. If the case was true and the man had raped the woman, the punishment would be good for the society as a message of the society. And while punishing the man, if it's a first offense, even in rapes, there is not a death penalty but a jail time. The jail time, I don't know why, but jail time could also serve as a rehabilitation. Uh, Even in jail, within jail, there are many things that changes an individual. We have to better our jail system, rather than investing in something uh, uh, that is a new concept available in the European system, and till it comes to India. That is the case. It's not it's the fault of judicial system rather than the punishing system. I would, if it clears the point.
Okay, as you rightly said, that jail can help a person to improve in certain number of ways, right?
Yep.
So that's what rehabilitation of the second stage is. Rehabilitation can be divided into two stages. The first stage is before announcing him as the criminal, before announcing him or her as guilty. Okay, you can try to listen to him, which had happened in the case of Jeffrey Dahmer, if I'm not wrong. And the second stage of rehabilitation is being inside the prison when a person is, already, made feel guilty for a certain crime, and if he or she is imprisoned, then too, in the European jails, then too, the criminals are kind of provided an atmosphere in the prison itself which can help them in being a better citizen. If you look at the Indian jails, if you look at the Indian prisons, the situation is completely opposite. If you look at the Indian jails, when a person is being accused for wrongly committing a crime, I'm damn sure if you look at the Indian prisons, the situation is such that you will actually become a criminal. Okay, you will turn out to be an actual criminal when you come out. That's the reason why crime reoffending rates are very high in India and other countries where the prisons are not in a good situation. So that's what I'm stating. What will you do? What is your take on this? If the prisons are not good,
No, yeah, that's the problem. When you say the second stage of rehabilitation inside the prison, there is a capital punishment. The inmate is serving a capital punishment, and then he is rehabilitated. That capital punishment is important to to clarify the message to the society that this is the punishment you will get, and that's message we are defending here today, that the message is important. You can rehabilitate, you can do everything to the inmate, you can make them a good human. And there has been many cases where after jail, the inmates have been, when reintegrated into the society, have become a better individual to the society after the jail time. So if we improve our jail system, of course, we have very bad jails. I know that. I personally have witnessed jails, the being in visiting in the jail. I have seen it, but we have to change the jail system. Within the jail system, we can of course rehabilitate the inmate. That's not the problem, but solely we have to focus on rehabilitation without any capital punishment. That's a wrong thing to do. That is
so, listening to both the teams, team one and team two, what I feel the conclusion of the debate was if you implement capital punishment along with rehabilitation, that will be a better system for the judiciary. That's what I have felt listening to the point of views of both the teams, which was indeed a good conclusion, to be honest. So, yeah, this leads to the conclusion of the debate as well of round five, which is was the Q&A and the debate as well. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, Tanishq. Thank you, Soham. Thank you, Harsh, and thank you, Ishant. I would hand over the mic to judges if they are ready with the results, or we can wait for a while till they announce the results.
It will take a few minutes.
Okay, no issues. We can wait for a while.
Okay, since we are done with the debate, actually, I'd like to thank my opposing counsel, Tanishk and Soham, for bringing out faults in my point. And as I have said in other debates and discussions through these debates, we will eventually arrive at a proper model conclusion eventually.
Yes. So the
Thank you
conclusion
so
for
much.
today's debate was like implementing both at the same time.
To
indeed.
striking a not implementing both at same time, to striking a right balance with
Yes,
focusing more on
striking the right
rehabilitation,
balance.
but
Yeah,
keeping the direct punishment for the
in
time
mind.
being.
Yeah, yeah.
Indeed. Yep.
Okay, since we are done, can we speak off the record now?
No, let me stop the recording. After the judges declare the results, we'll stop the
Okay, sure,
recording and then we can pick off the
sure,
record.
sure.
Okay, just to ask one more question to team one. Again, it strike my mind suddenly. Mr. Harsh had stated an example of UP rape case. Can you please restate that example because I think I misinterpreted it or you miscommunicated.
Yeah, I'll recommend you to go through Unnao rape case, and that's Unnao rape case. I am sure you all must have heard about it.
Okay, no, I have heard
So
about it, but I think I misheard it, maybe due to some of the issues. Yeah.
now, I
Mm.
know it's Unnao rape case. I would much rather not go into specifics of it since the meeting is being recorded as of now. I think we should avoid the specific details.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it is something we all should go through. It clearly brings out the fault in the current punitive uh, criminal system as well as our judicial system. It brings out the fault in these things. Uh, it only made me question the existing trend in our judicial system. We need a change, but what change we need to bring, we have to do more studies on it.
My personal take, on the opinion is how the judicial system of a country should be. That's my personal take. Some might disagree to it. If a certain person commits a crime, whatever the crime is, if he or she is a terrorist, if he or she has raped someone, if he or she has murdered someone, whatever the intensity of the crime is, before directly taking him to the court and announcing the judgment, the investigating officers and the judges at the same time firstly should try to listen to that particular person who has committed the crime, or they should try to listen of why he committed the crime. They should try to know the reason behind that person committing that particular crime. Of course, all the time there are particular reasons, and if the reason is not justified, he or she will be he or she must be punished for a longer period of time. But if the reason is justified, he or she must be sent to a prison where rehabilitation and capital punishment is implemented at the same time, so that he or she can develop his or her mindset and can become a better representative and a citizen after coming out from the prison. This is how a better judicial system can be implemented in each and every country, which will decrease the crime reoffending rates, the crime rates as well. Is what my personal take is.
The problem is we cannot determine what level should be that line, that whether
Exactly.
we should.
Soham is
Actually,
right.
one point I in this Ayush made. The thing is, this happens. The victim is being heard.
Right. Yeah.
Court itself, the
Hmm.
perspective of the victim is kept in front of the judge, and
Yeah.
after that the judge makes the decision. And when if the judge feels that the murder, I'm not saying justified, but if the judge feel the reason behind the murder or any heinous crime is dependent on any mental state of the accused, or the or any a sequence of scenario that led the accused to the murder, the judge accordingly changes the sentence and the punishment regarding that crime.
Actually, I'd like to correct you a little bit here, Tanesh. Yes, the victims are hurt, and there's no question our judicial system works that let 100 guilty people go, let 100 people go free, guilty people go free, but one innocent must not be imprisoned. We
Yes.
work on that philosophy, hence we listen to everyone. The thing is, the judicial system in India, and I can generalize it to entire world actually, is quite far behind from academia. Academia has moved way ahead in determining what is the right punishment and that create an individual. And we are still working on the theory to a certain extent that criminals are born that way. We are still stuck on that theory to a certain extent. The judicial system has to come on par with the academia of the time, who is dealing with criminal psychology and all, and only then proper judgments could be made, because most of our judges in higher courts, high court and the supreme court, are quite elder. I should say they are mostly above 40, mostly above 40, not all. But and since they are quite educated about law, but most of them are not quite learned about criminal psychology. Hence their judgment is based specifically on the law and not on the psychology part of it. I think the judicial system has to inculcate the psychology and mental health and everything into the curriculum, and the judicial system will have to come on par with academia so that proper decisions could be made and proper reforms could be made in the judicial system. could be made, not but also in the judicial system and prison reforms too, actually.
Completely agree
Ah,
to that point. But
mm,
actually, the the job of the judge is to make the decision by listening to the arguments of each party, and each party brings on their advocate to advocate their points and what they feel, and the advocate can quote anything that is currently, whether it be the mental health issues faced by their client, or anything that is relevant to the case, and by that on those points, judge basically judge the whole case and then give the sentence. So it's not basically what the judge knows, or what age or what generation does the judge belong, but how well the judge actually listens to the thought of both the parties. That's what the our judicial system is based on.
Actually, see there, there's a controversy regarding this, and I'd like to point something out here in Tanish's point. Actually, uh, the lawyers that bring out the merit of the case, they too lack that knowledge of criminal psychology. But yes, they are allowed to bring all the case. And once they present everything, it's upon the judge to decide which party has presented it in a better way. But this is where actually my point comes into relevance. Judge lacks the knowledge about these things, hence he might, and I'll use the word might here, he might ignore the criminal psychology part, he might ignore the mental illness part, he might not consider, let's say, revenge as a mental illness. He'll just consider insanity as the only case to give certain relaxations on. But all the cases of crime are to a certain extent a case of mental illness too. And this is where the judges and the judicial system is not in congruence with the academia. Academia has a point that the situation, the circumstances make the criminal, whereas judges decide the merit of the case only on the written laws that have already been written, and our parliamentarians definitely have ignored that part, the mental illness and everything. We are making reforms. The IPCs have been, and the CRPCs have been reformed a little bit recently, only 2 or 3 days ago. So we are making reforms. We are moving in the right direction, but yes, we are still way far behind. The system, the state, is way far behind than the academia in this respect, I think.
To state, what I want to say, I'll recommend you a web series named as Criminal Justice Season 1. So basically, in that particular series, it's, I think, based on a true story. Maybe not, maybe. Okay, whatever it is, I'm just considering the situation. Okay, so basically, that particular guy, he was 25 years old, he was a cab driver, and he was accused of raping a woman and murdering a woman, murdering that same woman, and he was imprisoned. The point of view of that particular guy was not even listened to, and the case was conducted in a local court. That's the main, that was the main kind of fault in that particular season, because the case was conducted in a local court where the judge was not very well learned. Even the advocate who was representing that particular guy was not very well learned. The opposite advocate was very well learned. This is where the fault of the judicial system comes in. Now, that particular guy got imprisoned for a certain number of years, for I guess 7 years. And after spending 3 years in the prison, due to the situations around him, after spending 3 years, he murdered another criminal inside the prison. And after murdering that particular person, in just a couple of months, he got released from the jail because the case was again solved that he had not raped that particular woman. He got released from the jail. So the time when he was supposed to be imprisoned, because he has murdered a criminal in the jail itself, so he was supposed to be imprisoned for another number of time. He got released, and the time when he was not supposed to be imprisoned because he had not raped that particular woman, he was said to be free. That time he got imprisoned. So that's the basically the fault in the judicial system, where listening to both the parties is not taken into consideration, and the judges are not very well learned, as Mr. Hirsch rightly said. I can't say not very well learned, but they don't know how to deal with a situation when such
Not
sensational
learned
topics are
regarding all
into
the
consideration.
aspects. They are quite learned about law, but
Yeah,
they're
they are
not
quite learned about law, but about
learned
the
about
situation.
all the relevant aspects. Yeah. I think
So,
we should stay away
yeah,
from debate about judicial
yeah.
system and reforms in it, because it's whole another debate and we can go on about it
Okay.
for hours.
We
Are
Yes,
judges ready?
yes,
Okay.
we are ready.
Okay.
So, Asmita,
Yeah. So both the teams put up a tough fight and had pretty strong points. But we do have a winner, and congratulations, it's team two is the winner. So, Vignesh, would you like to?
Into it.
Yes, so it was very tough to decide. Actually, after we had the points with the marking criteria that we are provided with, it was a tie, and then we decided to listen to some more points. And um, the thing is that Team 2 consistently dominated in the first three rounds. Okay, so we have decided that Team 2 wins. Team 1 needs to could have done a bit better on the coordination front.
Hmm.
Okay, I feel. Uh, Similarly, the second team could have done a bit better on the like on the doctrinal front. Okay, they could have invoked a few more doctrines of law and um, made their points. But overall, they have done a good job. Like it is like um, they have done a good job, and uh, that is why they have won. That is why we have reached at this decision.
Okay, team two with Soham and Tanishq, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Synapse,
So team
for
two
this
with Soham and
opportunity.
Tanishq is the winner of today's debate, and of course, team one had played really well. The lack of coordination, I definitely agree. Only Mr. Harsh was, kind of promoting his points, but the coordination between both the participants was definitely lacking in the
Yeah.
third round, especially, which had the highest weightage. Okay, no issues. Both the teams were very well deserving in the finals, and we have the names of all the four participants: Ishant, Harsh, Soham, and Tanishq. Even though Team 2 is the winner, all the four participants, because they were the winners of the group discussion that was held on 10th August, all the four participants will be getting an opportunity to judge the future events that Synapse will be conducting. And of course, Team 2 will be getting the winning certificates and a shout out at the same time. I guess we can give a shout out to both the teams because they were certainly the winners of group discussion. So, yeah. Thank you so much, judges Vignesh and Asmita, for judging this event and for providing a very fair decision. Congratulations, Team 2. Well played, Team 1. And again, congratulations to all four of you for winning the group discussion that was held on 10th of August. I hereby declare that the debate event has been concluded. Thank you for joining in. Samriddhi, you can stop the recording.